Hey, it's John Carlos here once again, as always, with
I fucking hate you. Eddie.
yeah.
I'm silly tonight. I'm sorry.
Yeah. He says he fucking hates me, but deep down, it's love. It's a lot like Will and Hannibal. They're underneath connection.
Which one is which? Oh my god. Which one? Well, you're probably Hannibal.
Yeah, between the
because
two of
I'm
us.
being tortured right now.
And
You're
yeah,
Hannibal.
Will's the empath who feels fucking everything, which is you. Because fun fact, I will watch I will see the shittiest movie the same movie Eddie's seen, but he'll like connect with like every character and feel everything, and I don't.
I'll try, but it doesn't always work. But with this, we're talking about Hannibal, the series. I fucking connected with this. My God.
Yeah.
Never seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
Really glad that you optioned this because even though I realize how little traction I really have with Hannibal Lecter's movie life and of course TV life, because I hadn't seen the series, but even his book life, because I've started Red Dragon but haven't finished it. Haven't read Silence of the Lambs or anything else. I don't even know if there is a Hannibal book.
Yes, there is.
Saw Silence of the Lambs, love it. Saw Red Dragon, you don't, I do. Haven't seen Manhunter yet though. And saw Hannibal like once and thought, this isn't Hannibal. And it was over 20 years ago, so I should give it another watch. But
once was enough for me.
And then,
And then I think neither of us have seen Hannibal Rising.
No, I don't even know what that is.
It was like after they did Hannibal and then after they did Red Dragon, they did like the origin movie.
Of course they did.
Yeah, they did.
I heard about that.
But what was interesting was Thomas Harris wrote the screenplay, but still, no Anthony Hopkins.
Something missing.
Yeah. I had no interest. My thing is I'm a Manhunter guy. Like that was my in. I mean, my in because I'm a big Michael Mann fan, but I mean, Manhunter's my shit.
Right.
And because of that, Brett Ratner, Michael Mann, Red Dragon or Manhunter.
And I have nothing else to compare it to except for like the first 2 chapters of the book, which I don't even remember.
And I know there are departures in Manhunter, but I'm just talking about the film. And then Silence of the Lambs, I actually rewatched like about a week before going to this. I'm fine with Silence of the Lambs, but even between those, I was always like the Manhunter guy.
You're hurting me. You're hurting people.
It was really good the last time I watched it. No, like it was good. I'm more than fine with it, but like anyway. But even I mean, this is not supposed to be a discussion of Manhunter versus Silence of the Lambs, but when it comes to those stories, like Will Graham is a better, like it's my in versus Clarice as your in to those stories. Like,
okay.
I just like I really connect to what that story tells. That movie leans far more on Will Graham, whereas Silence tends to lean more on other elements. And so anyway, I was excited to check this out, being that this show is so Will-centric. But we should tell everyone first the reason we even decided to go down this path was
okay.
Yeah, we did the Bride of Chucky. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, the whole Chucky franchise videos, and we were lucky enough that Don Mancini watched them.
Yeah,
tweeted about them, and
retweeted. Posted and got a bunch of people to watch them. It was great.
And we were lucky enough to be DM'd, and one of the DMs at the end of the conversation said, "Oh, now do Hannibal."
Yeah.
And
with an LOL, like it was, like a lark. Like
now, I know he's a fan of that Thomas Harris universe. I know he wrote for season 3, but when I really kind of sat and thought about it, it's like when fucking Don Mancini tells you to go do Hannibal, you do fucking Hannibal.
Right.
What you do as you're fucking told by Don Mancini. So, and actually,
yes, sir.
And then what kicked that into my head was he posted like a photo from like the set, and Scott Thompson was in the photo. And I literally have just finished rewatching the entire Kids in the Hall series, one of my second favorite TV show of all time. And I'm looking at this photo with Scott Thompson in it, and I went, Scott Thompson, Google. Scott Thompson was in this show? Okay, we're fucking, hey, Eddie, do you want to, Don Mancini said we should watch this fucking show. Let's watch this fucking show. So, here we are, and I'm really glad we did. Yeah.
Well, season one anyway. Season one.
So yeah. You can. What do you want to dive into first?
Oh God! I mean, it's dense. This is our first TV show that we're diving into, and also first time watch for me. So it's not like in my heart and soul yet.
Yeah.
It will be. It's gonna be one of those shows I return to because I'm sure that there's symbolism I haven't even caught on to yet. I'm sure there's things that I'm going to discover even as we discuss it, because these are literally the first discussions I'm having about this material with you.
Yeah. You'll watch this video in 5 years and like, you idiot, you didn't know that this was this.
I'll just be like, can we do another one, because I didn't even see that. Or then like also in retrospect, like after seeing the entire series, returning to the first season, might be things that I recognize where I'm just like, see, even then he was planting the seed for, because I have no idea where this is going to go.
Right. For example, and this is even just in the first season, but when you find out at the end of the season that he'd been fucking planting evidence in Will's lures, and I'm like, holy shit, like fucking like episode 4 when he's just bumming around his house. He's
just tying flies and you don't even know the context for it. You're just like, what a random, and it stands out enough that like when it's recalled, when it's kind of illustrated, this is why we showed you that. Of course I remember it, but I didn't like carry it with me because there are so many evocative images in this, even just this first season of this show. I mean, the maybe the most omnipresent theme that I caught on to, since we're not going episode by episode, and I have the most elliptically written notes, just kind of, I mean, literally, I'm just writing siren, blood, multiple corpses, Hugh Dancy. That's just the pilot, but but the broadest theme was just this question of sanity.
Right.
Because Will is immediately kind of introduced as this character who walks the line between, what did he say? It was 2 separate kind of disorders or things that, just like ways that people have to live. It was Asperger's and something else. I wrote it down. I don't remember where. But
yeah, because we're dealing with like
Asperger's and autism, I think. And
it's hard to remember 13 hours of content versus like 2 hours.
Yeah, right. But I got it. So because he's already introduced as somebody who sees things through his own particular lens, you start seeing more and more characters being introduced who are challenging him and calling him crazy in one way or another, or even just questioning his sanity. And as the show progresses, it becomes more and more about, it slowly starts to reveal itself as like how a Hannibal Lecter, because we all know who we're watching the show about, could hide in plain sight and never be suspected. Because we're talking about a denial of madness here. We're talking about someone who is strange, who does stand out. Mads Mikkelsen on his own certainly stands out, and then you got him behaving in a stoic, detached, particular way with unblinking shark eyes, and you wonder why he wouldn't be suspicious. But then you see how many other people are not only not looking at him because they're so engulfed in their own shit, their own secrecy, their own hypocrisy, their own kind of like blind but this strange practice of like, I know what's best and I'm going to behave in that fashion because this needs to remain a secret because of this reason. I mean, and this is just like really broad.
Yeah.
But I mean, it starts to feel more and more like, well, who's sane? And if no one is sane, then that's why nobody is recognizing Hannibal Lecter, especially when he's not even acting the craziest. Like, Will is oftentimes the person who seems to be the most problematic as far as his symptoms and as far as his, I guess, disorders manifesting themselves, because he keeps, he just seems like a very troubled person and seems to be on another channel a lot of the times. I mean, that's even his strength, like the fact that he does the work that he does and has to go into another realm of consciousness to experience it. And one of the things I appreciated in the pilot was how engulfed we were as an audience in his experience, seeing the show through his eyes. I was actually a little disappointed in the pilot and in the first couple episodes, just because Hannibal was so on the outskirts. He was just kind of moving through scenes. None of the scenes were really about him. He scared the shit out of me, but I wondered, oh, it's called Hannibal. Usually when something's named after a character, it's what it is to be that character or what it is to know that character. But this show knows it's got multiple episodes, and I think was probably operating as though it would have multiple seasons. So they really took their time, and I appreciated that as well.
If anything, it's even if he's not the main character, he is the orchestrator of kind of pulling as many strings as he can. I am familiar with Hugh Dancy, but not, he's not like a go-to where I have like that one movie that he clicked with for me or something. But when I watch this, I go, oh, this is why you're working. This is why.
Right.
Got it. Even I remember watching about maybe halfway through the season, or at least through episode like 5 or 6, where I'm like, it's interesting. I'd call this show Will. Like, it's interesting that it's called Hannibal. And then as things, continue, I'm like, I get it. One thing that's fun though is the show from the get-go. It doesn't pretend like if you're going in cold and we're going to reveal to you like who Hannibal is. Like the one thing is it does, like, you have to know he's a cannibal and a killer, like, going in. It's playing with that knowledge with you. So it's no surprise, but I do like the fact that I remember, I think it was episode 7 where I wrote down, like, goes full Hannibal. Where, like, we never really see Hannibal preparing food and we know what it is. But it's not till that dude, like, pulls over on the side of the road, like, Hannibal, like, gets out. And we actually see him, like, attack someone. 7 episodes in. There's a lot of things where, we know, like, he makes a pact with Abigail, like, by the 3rd episode. But so many things, the little Hannibalisms, like, the curtain is never pulled back. It's just like, hey, I kill people and eat them. Until, like, wait.
There was something
as far as putting it on Front Street,
Oh, sure. But there was something they alluded to, and oh my God, I laughed out loud when it happened. I think it was between Hannibal and Freddie Lowndes, I believe, when he's telling her something about, like, I don't remember exactly what it is, but he makes some kind of threat to her, and it immediately cuts to, like, a dish that he's serving. That's just some, gourmet meat cuisine that he's crafted. And I'm wondering, oh my God, is that Freddie Lowndes?
Right. That happens a few times in the show. That sort of thing. Where they cut,
and he entertains a lot. Oh my God, people.
Can I just say something that I'm not saying I want to do this, because I know he's serving people, but if I was in the show and didn't know what was being served, I would really want to go to Hannibal's house for dinner. I want that presentation. I want that explanation of what it is and how it's prepared. I just that room and his cadence, like, I want to have dinner with Hannibal.
I know, but not knowing the truth.
Or if he could actually serve me, like, actual, cow meat and not people meat. Like, but I mean,
exactly.
Yeah. I totally.
But even like body parts, like cow brains, or like something liver, something pancreas, something like. I mean, it's all coded. Like, oh, have these duck lungs. And it's like, it's not duck lungs.
and also, may I just say, I never, ever want to be in his Rolodex. That montage of, like, well, this requires duck thigh. This lawyer, okay.
I have to say, I was really admiring of that Rolodex because those business cards were mounted. Like the dimensions for each card were perfect and everything like that. That takes a lot of work. That's a lot of preparation.
Well, he's a precise
and I
fellow.
respect it.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember there's that period where they started making like the punchers for the business cards, but then they punched through the card and missed the number, so they made those little clipper attachments. And anyway, it's very precise work. I also can't help but wonder, what did each of those people do to end up in his Rolodex? Like, at what point did someone, cut him off on the freeway, or
Well, okay. Like we're jumping all over the place, so I'm just gonna go in because I felt betrayed. Because he got me. I think it was Fromage, the episode where he's starting to realize that he wants Will Graham to be a friend. And he's telling Gillian Anderson, I mean, that's another thing. The amount of people in this world, we'll get to them, but
yes,
oh my God, they just keep popping up, and I'm like, just writing down a name with exclamation marks after it. And she was, of course, one of them. And oh my God, she's one of my favorite people to watch because I still haven't figured her the fuck out. I mean,
yes,
I kind of get now by the end of the season that she probably knows everything.
Well, I'm still not, I don't know to the degree of how much does she know. I'm not, I mean, if you tell me that she knows 100%, I'd buy it, but I'm still hoping she doesn't.
If there's like maybe one surprise, one thing she wasn't onto, but she knows enough to question him in a way as she's eating the veal, that no one else, she's got this eye on him.
Yes.
And even the way she's speaking about the people he's spoken about. And I felt like, okay, I'm just jumping
just
all over
the way she's speaking about the veal itself.
Right, yeah. But then there's also this sense that, because I also wrote down a question as she was talking about being attacked, and he was talking about protecting her or feeling protective of her. And I thought, that's what you're doing. You're protecting her. You knew someone attacked her, and you don't want that to happen because she's vital to you, because she's the only person you can speak to on this level, and who even knows that there's something to pierce through. She mentions at some point really early, maybe in the first session, we see her with him, about the part of him, like the shield that he puts up, and how good he is at like putting it up and guarding himself and keeping people from seeing what's really going on with him. And so I'm like, okay, well, she knows there's something wrong, so she's already way ahead of the game in this series. But it made me question towards the end, and I think it was confirmed by some exchange they had, that because I wrote down a question right after that, like, what happened, like when she got attacked. I want to know more about that. I wanted to know, did he kill the person who attacked her? And now with everything with the tongue and him swallowing it, and I told him that he swallowed his tongue, but I didn't tell him how and all of that
how
stuff.
Or why or who.
Exactly.
And who makes me think, well, then Hannibal, well, first of all, we've already seen with Dan Fogler's character, like that whole, like he's capable of having a fight with people in an office and lying about it. So I felt like that was history repeating itself, and that history was Gillian Anderson. But when she says who and how, I almost have this, it's actually kind of horrific when I imagine him convincing someone to swallow their tongue, is where I go.
Ooh, I didn't even think about that.
And I feel like Hannibal's capable of doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, sometimes things can be ambiguous, and I like the ambiguity, and I don't want to know. But in that case, I absolutely want to fucking know. Like in the next 2 seasons, I need more clarification on that. That sounds like a story
I would love to know. I want it spelled out for me, absolutely. I mean, over time, of course, but I would love to finally know. Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, like the mystery is so...
But it informs them more. It's not just some lost mystery I want to know. It's
yeah.
It fills in the little puzzle pieces that make their relationship make more sense to me. So I want that. I do like that she mentions that like his pattern of like, he has some pretty strange relationships with his patients.
Mm-hmm.
And and was it yeah, I think it was Will who mentions you keep connecting to patients that have like these violent situations, and if you think about Will and leading up to before that with Dan Fogler and his friend, leading up to Gillian Anderson, when she's warning him after Jack visits her and questions her about Hannibal, she's like, hey, they're beginning to see your pattern. I couldn't help but wonder, is she referring to his pattern of strange relationships with past patients, or is that coded for they're starting to see the copycat killer's pattern?
Wow.
And I just like that that's...
Yeah.
There's a lot of double meanings and ambiguity or trying to decipher what necessarily someone means when they're speaking in this show.
It can oftentimes mean two things, and I love it when people are speaking as if they are saying two things.
I mean, Hannibal himself treating Will both as a patient and as a friend, and also as someone that he can see how he can guide this person to be that, and having it evolve from that into a possible friendship. And you wonder how much of it does he mean, how much of it does he not. Almost everything between Will or Hannibal, I'm constantly questioning. Like the one that really got me was when he's talking to Gillian Anderson after it's been found out that Will killed Abigail, and like we actually see him like crying when he's talking to her, and like I 100% do believe that he is actually shedding a tear, because I think I like to joke, like it really felt like it could have been a new show called My Two Dads with Abigail and Will and Hannibal. But like for a moment, like there was this path that like it's unfortunate that things happened that required him, at least in his mind, to get rid of Abigail. Because I think if he wasn't put in that position, he wouldn't have. And I literally think that is where the tears are coming from. There are times where I absolutely think he's lying, but I think in that moment, even with Gillian not knowing the full truth, I think the text of what he's saying is actually what he's feeling for once.
I mean, of course there are times when he's lying, but I feel like that's certainly not one of them for me. It never even occurred to me that he would, because this is the thing. This is when I started to feel the betrayal that I alluded to, because during Fromage, he honestly moved me and honestly convinced me that he felt a kinship to Will Graham, because, and not to Tobias, Dan Fogler's friend, because Tobias was vulgar. Tobias was prideful, and Tobias, I mean, I don't want to be friends with Tobias either.
Yeah, he's trying too hard.
One thing, I mean, it's so weird to sing the praises of Hannibal, or not even sing his praises, but just kind of like give him his due, as it were. But I mean, the man does possess a particular kind of poise and a particular kind of morality. That said, he makes it up to suit him, which I think is what sociopaths do. And this is when, God, I even fell for it during Fromage, just watching him discuss Will about, like, Will's greatest strength is the ability to see things through not just Hannibal's eyes, but anybody who fits that sociopathology. And there's something that Hannibal admires about that, and also feels comfortable around it. And also, as long as he can manipulate it, as long as he can use it to his advantage, feels it's worth protecting. The thing that I didn't count on in that episode, that he later just confirmed my worst fears. I don't remember the exact episode, but it's when he's asked, probably by Gillian Anderson. She's the only one I can see him answering this. Maybe it was Abigail, though. I think it was Abigail. She asked him, like, why? Like, why did he let all this happen? I think it was, why did it happen to her? And he just says, I was curious what would happen. And that kind of curiosity, that kind of detachment, and that kind of seeing people merely as objects to be manipulated. Doesn't mean you can't endow them with meaning, doesn't mean you can't feel for them. I don't think, I asked my sister, because, you know, she's she studied, you know, to be a therapist and whatnot. She says she didn't really focus on sociopathic behavior or you know, even just like, you know, the mindset. There's a few things she knew. She sent me an article I read. It covered some bases, but didn't really tell me anything new. So as far, my only way in is like the few people I've heard speak about it. And one thing that I do believe is that it doesn't mean you don't have feeling. You're not devoid of feeling. It just means you're incapable of feeling empathy, which is Will's superpower. So anyway, all of this long road just to say, the tears that he shed when he was talking about Abigail, I feel like what it was the loss. I mean, feeling the loss of I guess finishing off what he had the inclination to do. Like, he had the impulse to protect, he had the impulse to teach and to nurture another person, and to even share that with another de facto parent in Will, with Abigail. And I think he enjoyed it. I think it brought something out in him, but I don't think the whatever catharses he may have experienced emotionally, or even just observationally, like observing her and deducing like, oh, that must mean this. You know, whatever it is, it doesn't outweigh that innate curiosity, that almost sick scientific detachment of, well, let's just see what happens. Let me see where this can go. I kept asking myself, what is Hannibal's end game with specific things he was doing throughout the series, and then throughout the season, and then by the end of the first season, I was just like, I don't think there is an end game. He's a slave to his disorder, the same way Will is. The thing is, Hannibal's much better at deflecting. He can be more prepared because he's not seized by emotion or even by guilt if he takes a life. He's got the one superpower Will could really use, which is detachment.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I understand the betrayal. The one thing that I find interesting about that is I don't think, how do I word this?
it's a lot.
It is a lot. Obviously, Will is betrayed by Hannibal. We, as the viewer, I don't think like from the get-go, from episode 1, he's like, I'm gonna blame this all on Will. Like,
no, absolutely not.
But when it comes time to, like, I think just the same with Abigail, he wanted to see what Will will do, what will happen when he's guided this way, and I don't think he ever intended from the get-go to actually have feelings for Will and want to be his friend. So when we do start to believe that he really wants that, and then things unfold the way they do, I feel betrayed. But I don't necessarily think it's him. In this weird way, I don't think he's like turning his back or changing his mind or anything. I think in his head, he can still have both. Like, he can reconcile that in his head.
I mean,
or at least he would
yes.
hope to. And it's not until you get to like the finale when like that's not a choice anymore.
Right, exactly. Because Will knows. Will is behind bars and knows everything.
Right. And I think that goes out the window by the second to last, definitely last episode when.
Yes.
So there's that.
Can I also talk about the character who might have moved me the most out of this entire season was Georgia, the girl.
Yeah, she was great. She shows up for like 2 episodes, and she has.
I know. Heart. Okay, well, because also initially she didn't. Initially, I was like, okay, I've already been terrified. Like, oh my God, getting through the initial episodes was hard too, just because we were kind of stuck in. Not stuck. I mean, obviously, it needs to be established the daily practice of Will Graham and his peeps, Jack Crawford and everybody. Alana Bloom, another one I love, but we'll get there. But we'll get there. so I've seen, you know, like the mushrooms being harvested in these corpses. I saw the angels with the flesh, and I'm just going, and then we get to sweet, poor Georgia, who truly is introduced as the stuff nightmares are made of. Because the way we're introduced to her, we don't even really get a good look at her.
Right.
Except for like a second where she looks like, you know, Reagan in Act 3 of The Exorcist. But like maybe a little Evil Dead reboot thrown in.
She even gets like the jittery, shaky girl shots at one point.
Yeah. And then she's just an arm reaching from under the bed and pulling. I was just like, this is like what got me into horror, like, was the fact that it terrified me, but I was so impressed because it got me. And so she got me, and I thought, oh my God, this is the most terrifying thing, because I didn't even know she was real. I didn't know what was going on.
Right, but when she's under Will's bed, I was on the edge of my fucking seat when he's
I know. Well, because we see that photo, and I can't even finish the image in my head. I'm like, that's the girl who's missing? Okay, that is not the girl who's missing. They don't even know what, because that girl is not the girl who was under the bed. And so I'm immediately, and I'm just terrified, and I'm like, congratulations, TV show, because by, what is it, episode 7, 8, whatever her first episode is, I'm like, you're still upping the ante, scaring me even more. Hannibal is no longer the scariest thing for me to look at, because I'm still on a aw with him. I wasn't betrayed yet. But then for some reason, when Will sees her and faces her, even with all of his following the deer, you know, bullshit, and then his hallucinating, and he's already kind of blacking out and going places he shouldn't, and all of that stuff going back to Abigail's dad and everything. For some reason, when he looked her in the eye, and also when he knew to like jump off the bed and then just kind of look her in the eye and talk to her and call her Georgia, and to watch her listening, I thought, number one, you were one of the bravest people I've ever seen depicted in a television show or a movie, because you're calm, like you know everything, so you're not afraid of her, but you know you have to approach her in a way where she's no longer the monster, where somebody is actually not even staring at you, but looking at you and talking to you, to the person you kind of forgot you were. And, you know, so, and then when she starts talking back, I just started crying. Of course you did. I lost it, because it just felt like he was, of course, but no, because it just felt like, this is also fundamentally, it's amazing, because like, they already introduced her, and I was like, this is what got me into horror. And then I see this scene, and I'm like, this is what got me into horror too. Because it's storytelling. It's like a Grimm's fairy tale about, like, you know, the girl who nobody could look at or something, and inside there's just a person who's like reaching, oh, I'm gonna cry now, who's just reaching, waiting to be found. And he found her. He did his job. You know, this late in the season, when we're led to believe he's getting farther and farther away from reality, all of a sudden he's back when it counts. He's able to see something and recognize it's real when it counts, and it's all, he's right. And then they get her into that little oxygen bin tent. It's not a tent. I mean, it's like chamber. It's like a case. Yeah, chamber. And just seeing her, like, then when he goes back and visits her in her arm, it's just all, but she's starting to look at her, and he tells her she's pretty, and I'm like, yeah, she is. Oh my God, she's back. Who knew it was like this easy? So then, of course, when she finds the comb that was, you know, strategically placed in her oxygen chamber, and that, I screamed and I started crying again, because I didn't want to lose her. There was so little light in this first season. And it's not a criticism. It's just it is
what it is.
Yeah, I'm craving light, and then I get it, and then it is ripped, not just ripped from me, but I have to not only watch someone who I've got such an incredible, almost immediate connection with from the moment she speaks and is spoken to. And I have to watch her not just die, but I have to watch her suffer.
Watch her feel her, Ugh.
Yes, and watch her suffer completely needlessly And for a while, it takes a while to burn to death. And the injustice of it, and also the entrapment of being inside that chamber, and there's nobody on duty to do anything. I was a mess. I was a wreck. And she's one of my favorite characters of season 1.
When Will first visits her in that, like that scene, it's pretty much everything you said. It gave me everything I needed. What made me realize that I am being, I'm in the hands of people who really know what they're doing, is the fact that they were able to give me that, and then so quickly later rip my heart out. I'm like, one, I absolutely, in a show full of murders and close calls with certain people, like this is one where I'm like, I do not want this to happen, and you're fucking doing it to me. I felt guided. I feel like someone was in control, and good job, team.
Yeah.
But one little thing that really like rubbed the salt on the wound is that the fire is going in very slow motion, but her acting isn't at the same speed as the fire. She is still performing in more real time. So like she's actually in more agony performance-wise than she probably would be at that speed. So it's actually more drawn out. Like we're getting more ick and more angst than we would. Which I just thought, again, was a choice.
Thanks, Bryan Fuller.
With me.
Thanks, Bryan Fuller.
Yeah, thank you for that.
For fucking with my heart.
Right.
I'm mad at you, too. You did a great job. I can't wait to see the rest of the series.
Side note, Bryan Fuller. You know, but he Dead Like Me, Wonder Falls, and Pushing Daisy. Pushing Daisy is one of my all-time favorite shows ever. I saw each of those and saw how it was the same person guiding them. If you're just going based on the material.
Yeah.
But based on this material, just based on like I absolutely understand approach and intelligence and all that. I can still see how it's Bryan Fuller. It's just a completely different side of Bryan Fuller. But yeah, you want to talk about that leap. Props, because you know I remember when this was announced. I'm like, Pushing Daisies, Bryan Fuller, Hannibal. Okay,
Wonderful. That you know, adorable little
But also, Pushing Daisies pulled at my heartstrings in a way that this show does too. So
mortality.
Right. I'm going to mention something as far as pulling at my heartstrings. Here's the thing that really fucked me up. Well, actually, a lot of things fucked me up on this, but I want to bring up, I think it was episode 5, when it's Jack and his wife. Yeah. I haven't talked to any Hannibal fans yet, so I don't know if the community of people who watch this show are as into Lawrence Fishburne's work in this as I am. But I mean, there's a lot of challenging things in the show when it comes to like the simplicity of stuff. Yeah. And in lesser hands, Jack Crawford might not have delivered as much the way Lawrence Fishburne is delivering for me in this show. I already liked him but then we get to I hesitate to call it a subplot, but his wife and her cancer. But that scene, first of all, there's the scene where he pieces it all together. And sometimes you've referenced when people are pretty much silent film actors, but I mean, he breaks my heart without saying a word in that scene. And he's still trying to maintain his conversation, but he's still thinking about what he's thinking about. But what fucked me up was when he visits his wife when she's meeting with Hannibal and they have this conversation. And every little tiny choice the two of them make as actors, as characters, like that scene, I went back and watched like 2 more times. It's like a fucking masterclass. Where like every once in a while you see something where I wouldn't say you're being pulled out, but you're aware beyond just the story and your investment. They're like, this is fucking magic. And I don't. Hannibal, I just joined like a master class for like 4 or 5 minutes. And I'm dying to know if, like, obviously when you're on set, you've got to rehearse the scene so that the camera people know exactly what they're going to be shooting. So you can't just make up whatever the fuck you want. There's got to be some sense of rehearsal and blocking. But I'm dying to know how much of that was directed and how much of that did they kind of create themselves and were allowed to bring that and just that fucking scene, just even without being blatantly obvious or having some big, that just destroyed me. And there's a little thing that I tend to have, and everyone's got their own thing. And I'll give you an example. A friend of mine has a thing where when 2 characters' foreheads touch, that like means something to her, and it's her into a scene. Even something I remember, something as random as like Dogma, when at the end and Bartleby and Loki are talking, and he brings fucking Matt Damon in, and their foreheads touch right before he's like, "You lost the faith," and then he fucking stabs him. My thing that I've started to gravitate towards over the years, when done correct, is when people reach for each other. And the hand clasps, depending on when it's used and how. And when he just stands there and he like asks her basically just to join me and talk, and then she, fuck, Lawrence Fishburne can do so much with this. Fuck. And even just the following episode, because he gets to sort of let out his feelings just to Hannibal, and my only, I hesitate to call it a complaint, but that storyline kind of goes away after that. And that was one of the points where I'm like, even though the show is called Hannibal, and even though I feel like it could be called Will, why am I feeling so much about fucking Jack? There is an ensemble of storylines here that I really care about. And then like 2 or 3 episodes later, I'm like, okay, we're not going back to that one. I'm hoping it comes back in season 2.
Oh, I mean,
because I want more Gina in my life. I'm a huge Firefly fan, so let's.
Me too. But every time I see her, actually, the first frame she was in, I said out loud, Jasmine, because the first thing I ever saw her in was season 4 of Angel, and that is not a lovable role, but I love her, and she's always like she'll always be. She's Gina Torres, but she'll always be Jasmine to me. But in this, I just love calling her Bella because that's what Jack calls her. Right?
Yeah.
God, when I found that out too, and I'm watching her, and I know she's distant, and I don't understand why. Everything leading up to it feeds that moment too.
Right. And then you go back and I watched all their scenes twice at least.
Yeah. And Hannibal, I think, is the one who tells Jack one thing that she's something to the effect of like one thing that she isn't questioning is her love for you, or something like that. And because that was the thing.
She's not with the wrong man, or something.
Yeah, something like that. But it was also about her. Like I think he was worried that she was doubting she was with the wrong man, and he said she doesn't think she is.
Right.
And because he's feeling around, and Hannibal's not supposed to say anything. But when he said that, I was just kind of like, But no, but that scene that you're referring to between them, when they finally, because I mean, that's an awkward talk to have. And the thing is, one thing that I love about it, I feel like if there was direction, it might have just been about restraint. But I wonder if she even needs to be told, because I was so in awe of Lawrence Fishburne's doing everything he's supposed to, because he's just living off of her. He has a big old question mark over his head because she is a fucking mystery to him right now. But he's still got that thing where he's like convinced, where he needs to be convinced that he knows what's going on inside of her. So he talks that way, but even though it sounds like he's making statements, he's really asking questions and trying to see if he can pull the veil. But it's also like oddly manipulative, oddly like if he can just say this is the way things are, that's the way things are going to be. It's like manifest destiny. Yeah. And with her, what I love about what she did, because she's the mystery, everything that everybody says about her and everything that we find out about her that, that we might not know at that particular moment is in her. And you realize it's not about, because I remember thinking when they were at dinner with Hannibal, like, okay, is she over this? Like, was she ever into this marriage? What is she disappointed. She seems disappointed in him. And then I watch her during that scene and I'm like, she wasn't disappointed. She just feels like a complete burden on his life. He has enough, and she knows he's exactly where he needs to be. Because even though he's making mistakes before our very eyes, I still trust that Jack Crawford will find out the truth, not just because I know what happens in the books that follow this series, but he better find out the truth. I don't even know if he's in the books, but I mean, I hope he does if he perishes or whatever. I don't know what's going to happen, but she has faith in him. She loves him. She just doesn't want to inconvenience anybody, which I feel is very, very common for people, particularly when they're at stage 4.
Right.
Jesus. Like there's only one way this can end.
I went through that exact same mental path and journey that you went on.
Yeah. But one thing that I loved was through all of that, she wasn't playing anything. Everything was restrained. I didn't see an emotional preparation, and I didn't see somebody, like, one thing that bothers me with actors, if I see them like twisting the towel, you know, like just trying to wrench the emotion out of it, and it was effortless.
No,
that doesn't mean there wasn't anything alive in her, but she was just, I'm gonna cry again. I didn't even cry, but I feel like I'm gonna cry. She was just sitting there being a woman with stage 4 cancer, finally being confronted about it by her husband, and feeling absolutely no warmth by anything he could offer her, and saying it and meaning it, and loving him all the while. And it was so painful, so simple. It's the only way that can exist is if you make it exist and trust it, and just roll cameras on to really, really talented actors who are working off each other.
Right.
Killing me.
Like their dinner scene, their scene in bed, the scene in in Hannibal's office. That was enough to make me want like a Jack and Bella show, just to get more of that. But then I realized, please don't, because I don't think my heart could handle it. If that's what they're going to bring to it week after week after week, I don't ever want that show.
I don't either, because...
But I'm just saying that the quality is there. Holy shit.
And this is really mean to say, but it's not going to be a long show.
Oh, yeah.
God.
It'll be an event miniseries.
Okay, I'm going to stop, because that's awful. I'm sorry, everybody. That was dark. Next thing. I don't know these people's lives. Well, I'm sorry.
Okay, let's liven it up a bit. I just want to say.
Yes.
Because I think I'm not mistaken in thinking that there are things about Hannibal and what Mads is doing that you respond positively to. I don't see, I mean, obviously Hannibal's not my type. He's got a wiener. But but I'll say this. His office is sexy as hell, man. I wanna fuck his office. That like set. Yeah. First of all, here's the silly thing. Not silly, but like, it's not like I've been to therapy. My therapist's office didn't look like that. Like that is, I don't know how anyone just walks in casually, like for the first time, and goes, anyway, let's get to work. Like, how do you not just fucking look at the Beast's library? It is, but it is. Oh, the atmosphere in there! I want to just fucking smell that room.
There's obviously an entryway on the second floor, because twice now people have snuck up. Yeah. I'm sure he knew they were there. Just decided, well, I may as well acknowledge you now. But twice people have been up there, and he's just
there's
been
gotta
like,
be a little window latch or a Mission Impossible vent.
Something Final Destination morgue thing.
But his office is sexy and huge, and his suits, and almost every episode I would just kind of lean in at the pattern on his suits, or with the tie choices, the vests and shirts. It's a dapper suited man.
Meticulous, yes. Oh. And okay, because this is the thing. I think one of the reasons why I responded to him early in the season the way I did I put a little poll on my Instagram story asking if everybody else who's seen the show is as terrified of him as they are turned on by him, like me. Because those, like the first 3 episodes or so, I mean, I know who he is, and I am terrified because we see him have at least 1 or 2 people over for dinner, and my skin is crawling, and I'm literally sitting there just watching him either prepare food or serve it, going, "Aah." And I hadn't done that with Hannibal Lecter in a while. That's one thing I don't really do with Silence of the Lambs now. With I focus on different things with multiple watches for that, so I don't really get creeped out. But something about like a new Hannibal Lecter who's also free, you know, who's just kind of, I mean, I do it at the end of Silence of the Lambs. I sit there and I go, it's out. But it's having a friend for dinner. But this time, I think it was the fact that he, like you said, like is so meticulously dressed, and also like Mads Mikkelsen's skin is also impeccable. I mean, there are harsh, unforgiving lights and shadows cast against that face, and I never find one flaw or one thing I would call a flaw. And there always seems to be something about distance is sexy. I don't know why. I don't think it should be. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just saying often enough I'm not immune. And as is the case with Mads Mikkelsen's Hannibal, the thing that started to, I mean, the betrayal did it when I was just kind of like, oh, you are just a sociopath. It's easier to kind of walk away from it because it makes me think too much about guys I've dated. You know, just like feeling of being let down when you're like, God, you know, when I started to have some faith in you and think maybe he's not all bad. I mean, of course, I don't like the eating people thing, but there were moments mid-season where I was like, but he's got loyalties. He's got these connections to people that he feels that he doesn't quite understand. And not that I'm fooling myself going like, maybe he just needs some more practice and the right connection.
The right guy hasn't come along.
Can make all that pathology just melt away. I don't think that, but I did feel attracted to it and endeared by it because it's also a tack I hadn't observed Hannibal Lecter taking with also another man. There's something, because I have to also admit, it wasn't just Mads Mikkelsen. Hugh Dancy, my one complaint that isn't a complaint about this show is that he's far too pretty to be going through what he's going through. Like, he's obviously working out daily. We never see him work out once. He is in that tight t-shirt and boxer shorts probably 70% of the show. And then if he's sweating, he'll take his shirt off, and I'm like, when did you have time to do that? And it's upsetting because if he could just jog, I mean, he's got all those dogs also. Oh my God.
All the doggos.
With the strays. I mean,
I'm an easy mark. You put fucking like 10 dogs in a scene. I'm just like, oh, Will and his dogs.
Anytime that I thought something was going to happen with one of those dogs, I'm telling you, I was just kind of like, don't you do this to me, TV show.
But when Alana's like, hey, by the way, though, I got your dog.
I was already on a roll. Okay, there's so much to say. I'm just going to say
I love her.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, because I was already on a roll with her because she was the only one who seemed to be feeling exactly what I was feeling at that moment. As she's like, I warned you. I knew this was going to happen. He was going to get too close. You said you weren't, and everything. I'm just kind of like,
yep.
Okay, Alana Bloom is my way in now. She's me. And because she's also, I mean, she's no dummy. In a way, her natural inclination to flirt with Will and also kind of with Hannibal. I get it. I'm like, I mean, she's probably going to be kicking herself the way I would after she finds out the truth about Hannibal. Hopefully she lives to. But no, everything about her in that moment, and then the fact that she was going to take care of his dogs.
Yeah.
She became the light for me. All of a sudden I was just like, okay, I just have to I stick with Alana. I'm going to look for light every time she's on screen, because she always was in an odd way, but I really manifested her as my light for this show right now, because she's kind of the only source.
Yeah, even from the get-go, because again, I've never read the books, so I'm not, I think this show probably plays out really well to fans of it, because it's not a direct translation. It's getting to see someone kind of reinterpret it. I hate the word reimagining, but it is a reimagining. And I know it's repurposing bits and putting them in new contexts. And I think people would have a lot of fun with it the way I've had that kind of fun with other adaptations. But but just coming from being a Manhunter fanboy and having Will's wife be the one to like tell Jack, I don't want him to go back here. Don't let him get too close. And now having that being that we're in a different kind of time frame from the Red Dragon era, having Alana be that voice automatically endears me to her. But this actress they got is freaking great.
Oh my God.
Even from episode 1, I'm on board with her. But throughout the show, her voice of reason. So that when she is exploding at the end to Jack, pretty much the whole "I told you so" scene. We've had the screaming in slow-mo in a car scene so much that it takes a lot to get me to buy it, just because it's a thing. But I mean, her screaming alone in a car got me. I'm like, I'm right there with you, sister.
Yeah, I was crying again.
And there's another one. I need to look up who the costume designer is on this show, because she's also always impeccably dressed in really like well patterned, like nice little dress. Like
the first time I really noticed it was the "I told you so" scene, which is odd because it was one of the scenes I was the most connected to. But
I noticed every time she shows up, I'm like, that's a cute dress.
I'm too busy looking at her face. Her eyes are up here, John Carlos. No, but no, but I mean, the first time I noticed, maybe it's also just because there was a reaction shot where her body was, predominantly in it, and because I'm looking at her face, beautiful woman, but not that matters, but it's there. But there were like reaction shots or just like long 2 shots where her dress, also because it was like a uniform dress, and it was red and I think navy, but the red was just popping off the screen. And also I think it's also because it's such a desaturated show for the most part, that when they use color, it's really effective. Not so much so that on a first viewing it always pops to me in a way that I'm conscious of, but I know I'm feeling it, because I mean, I can think about like the dishes are colorful with Hannibal, and I'm sure and of course blood, and crime scenes and particular moments.
Blue of the walls.
Oh yeah.
Again, his dining room and his office. I just want to stew in them for like a little bit. I bet they smell really good, especially with his keen sense of smell. Like I bet. Yeah.
That's the thing, is because he's a guy who makes money and who's clean and who's handsome and who listens, like asks questions. Like these are all traits that if you found a guy who did all these things and you were attracted to him, you'd want to know, is he single? I mean, that's why. He's got enough of the components. It's just the fatal flaw, and then the umbrella. It's not just one flaw. It is an umbrella over a family of flaws. You were going to say, sorry.
No, you had mentioned his skin being flawless. One thing I noticed, it's funny because I remember watching so many scenes and not necessarily noticing it being flawless, but just the image being very clean. And then I think it was the showdown at the Hobbs house at the end where fucking everything comes full circle. And like in hindsight, like how could it not? It was the first time I ever noticed, and I think this is intentional, that like Hannibal's skin is very oily. Like this, like, and now that Will has seen the true face of what Hannibal is when he's finally put it together, is also when he is at his most unclean. It like everything just felt shinier to me in that scene, and I kind of feel like that might have been intentional.
Maybe you describing it is just getting me there. But Like,
is
really?
him
It was oily,
in all black with antlers getting you there too?
No, actually, I love that you brought that up, because another thing that I loved that I didn't get for a while, I just kind of accepted it and thought, well, this will be explained later. And thank God I'm in good hands, because I felt like it was seeing the deer imagery early on and then watching it transition from the deer that Will was usually following, whether while he was working or while he was dreaming or both. Transform into that black demonic looking character with antlers. Did you have an opinion of it when you were watching it?
Oh, I did. And
what did you think of it when you saw it?
I was hoping I was right, and I feel like I'm right.
Okay.
Not like there's a right or wrong thing, but
sure.
Because the first few episodes, I'm just like, this has got to mean something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
About halfway, and I forget when it is, when we see there's like a little statue of like the stag in Hannibal's office.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, well, that definitely means something. And about halfway through the season, it clicked to me where I started to realize, and this is where like I've never gone back to do the research. So if there are any fans out there, anyone that can tell me like I'm wrong, great. But the thing that I gathered was that I started to notice he was seeing the stag when they're investigating cases that were really the copycat / Hannibal's cases, where he was the source of the death. Like, I don't recall seeing the stag when it's fucking like Molly Shannon, you know?
Oh, God.
So I'm like, this is the presence of Hannibal, whether Jack knows it yet or not. I think it's his subconscious creating an image to let him know, like, this is what's really going on. And the fact that there was a stag statue in Hannibal's office really solidified the presence of the stag is the presence of Hannibal being the source of what you are, whenever you're around it, not necessarily investigating, but if they're investigating that episode and it shows up in the dream, which to me, by the time you get to the last 2 episodes, I feel like that's exactly it, because he's literally imagining, you know, the stag coming through. God, who was it? Because it was like a dream. Was it Abigail? No, it wasn't Abigail. Might have been Nick. He's having a dream about some female, and like she gets stabbed by antler horns.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
it
I'm
was,
like,
and
it
was Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Georgia, and it's definitely someone that he's having a dream about, someone that Hannibal's responsible for at that point. And then to me, it's no coincidence in the episode where he pieces things together is the episode where it makes its first transition from animal form to human form. And I think that's the whole point, is because it's now coming into focus that it's Hannibal himself. And that it's also no coincidence that it's distant and hovering in, like when he's in the interrogation room. But it's not until he fully acknowledges it and confronts it, the fact of that Hannibal is being behind this, that when he's now been shot by Jack and is looking up at the two of them, that now it isn't just around, it is Hannibal.
Right.
So
okay,
that's what I got out of it.
Cool. I think because I didn't notice so much the frequency as like when he's following the copycat, like you know what, that could be true. I'd have to watch the first season again to verify, but I think you're right. I think you are.
I think I'm right. I can't remember if when he's with God, wasn't Eddie Izzard's character? Abel Gideon. I can't remember
Dr. Gideon.
if it was around when Gideon was around. That might throw off my theory. But
because that's interesting, because this is the thing, is if it's around, I have a theory and I could be wrong too, but I just thought there was something about seeing the stag early on. It felt, because Will seemed oddly calm around it, never seemed to be threatened. It always seemed to be leading him somewhere. And it started to really kind of like lead him, because I don't even remember if it always showed up only when he was working. I feel like it might have been in some of his hallucinations that led him just random places. Yeah,
it never just worked, but always, even if it was a dream, they were dealing with something that was copycat related in that episode.
Okay, again, like I said, I have to watch again, like with that lens, and believe me, I will. But because one thing that I thought, especially as it transitioned, I didn't develop like any kind of like even glimmer of a thesis or you know a theory of what it was until I saw the kind of, you know, painted all in black demonic looking person with the antlers coming out. And it felt to me like, I mean, even though I didn't even get a good look at the face, I wasn't even sure if it was the actor, you know, like Mads Mikkelsen, or just like a figure. But the figure was threatening enough that I was just kind of like, well, that's Hannibal. I know that. And it made me wonder, is the stag, maybe because the stag was non-threatening and because it almost seemed to be leading him where he needed to go to figure it out, it made me wonder if the stag was somehow connected to Will and his ability, like his gift to empathize with people so much so that he can just move into a space where they've been and break down, move in reverse and break down exactly what went down, and not just what went down, but how and why, like where it came from, where the impulses were, what this means, and all of that. And the thing is, he stops doing that, like by, I'd say maybe like when the first appearance is maybe the last 3 episodes of the season is when I think the demonic thing starts showing up. And I think that's when he starts realizing that he's not being led by anything inside anymore. It's, which if it's happening while he's just going off into like dreamland and everything like that, it's not even like serving a purpose anymore. It's just kind of like, it's becoming a disorder. It's becoming something he can't use to help people. It's becoming something that's debilitating to him. But then when he starts seeing the demon, he's also starting to piece together that someone is behind this. He's starting to make some paranoid accusations, or at least question himself privately. And then when he's around other people who are questioning him, he's defending himself.
Right.
Questioning like, well, who could it be? And it made me think like, he knows someone else is pulling the strings now. He's not following this harmless thing that he just kind of summoned from within this, like, I don't want to say spirit animal. I fucking hate that term. But for lack of a better term, I mean, this, you know, this guide. Yeah, this Patronus. There you go. I thought about that actually. But
there's got to be some fan art out there. A fucking Will with a giant stag as Patronus. I guarantee you.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Anyway,
but so yeah, it makes me think about him like following now, or not even following, but just kind of like being haunted by this demon that is also wearing antlers that also attract him and that also seem to be leading him places. But it's because he's being manipulated. It's a new presence. I felt like, yeah. So
I felt like that he was being guided.
Yeah.
Whenever I saw it, or at least that they were on like similar paths if he wasn't being guided.
Right.
I think it's no accident that as he's coming to terms with the truth of things is when it's no longer a guiding force.
Yeah.
When it's about him being framed. Well, first of all, it's no accident that in a scene where he is in the interrogation room saying like, I can maybe see how I killed Abigail, but I don't see any of the others, and how I'm being set up is when it is literally the man who is setting you up.
Yeah.
But yeah, its performance is far more aggressive by you get to the last episode. And also it was a guiding force. But then when he is now trying to get to the root of why this happened, he hunts it and wounds it, and that's what makes its transition. Where he's now taking action against it versus in real life.
Right. Because that made me sad. That made me sad watching him
as a dream, but it's a parallel to him taking action in the real world.
Yeah, but
literally leading up to him taking Hannibal back to fucking, you know, the Hobbs house.
Right. But I felt like it was also shutting some part of himself off, like that extrasensory, whatever he has, like needing to destroy something in order to kind of move past wherever he is. I mean, it's so dense. There's so much to it.
And the fact that he hunts it, and then not only does it seem to be wounded, but is now a different force. Like again, it's a lot. And it's one of the things I like about the show. Because even if
Shannon is on this show,
and she's great.
Yes, she is, and Eddie Izzard, and Jesus Christ, more names.
And Vogler, I'm such a fucking fan of him. When he showed up in the first episode, I'm like, please let there be more. And when we get more,
I felt so bad for him because I was like, oh shit, am I Dan Fogler? Because I want to be friends with Hannibal in this episode too.
Can I just say, it's one thing to have a 2-person or 3-person dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But when you find out, like, he used to throw these lovely dinner parties, I'm like, can I go to a fucking dinner party with Ellen Green at Hannibal's house?
Oh my God, Ellen Green too. She was another one. She showed up. I was just kind of like, what's Ellen Green doing here?
Well, pushing daisies, but you know.
Yeah, of course.
Look, fucking Dan Fogler, Eddie Izzard, Anna Klumsky, Ellen Green.
Oh, Anna Klumsky.
Lance Henriksen.
Yes, being used properly at last after our Scream 3 breakdown. I was watching him going like, see, it doesn't even have a large role here, but this is how you use a Lance Henriksen.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I am such a massive Anna Klumsky fan, and
the
second she shows up, I mean, I already, like, she's fucking doomed, but she's visually, there seems to be definitely you're pulling on my sense memory of Clarice, but you're also taking elements of what I know of Will. There are elements of like Will and Hannibal there when it comes to her and Hannibal. My only, again, this is that complaint. It's not a complaint. I wish I could get more. You know, I could watch a whole reworked show of that if her fate wasn't what it was.
No, that was another loss that I felt too. Like when I started, because the first time we saw that scene, I was so just drawn to her and what she was doing in the scene, because she's so incredibly present and spontaneous. She just draws my eye. So I was just kind of like, I'm ready to watch whatever you're going to do. I'm going to follow you. I didn't even notice, not even that it was desaturated, but that it was basically like black and white almost.
Yeah.
So we're not watching things happening in the present tense. I didn't realize we were in the past until somebody used her name a little later in the same episode about what happened to Miriam last. And I was just kind of like, because I don't remember her introducing herself. And I was listening for names because I wanted to write them down. I want to know, who am I, I know what your actor name is, but I want to know who, who's the character, who am I going to, because we're going to have to talk about.
It's definitely black and white in that first scene.
Yeah, it totally is, but I didn't even notice because I was just sitting there just going like, wow.
You didn't see,
they're doing really well.
Lawrence Fishburne has different facial hair, which means it's, it's in the past.
I was just watching the work.
He's got a goatee now, so.
Yeah, no, I was just watching the work.
Yeah.
But then I think about halfway through, and then I saw them in black and I think it was somebody mentioned something, and then I saw them in black and white, and I was like, I think it was maybe the third time she came into his office or whatever, and I was like, this is a fucking flashback. She's dead. God damn it. Stop killing the actors I like.
Can I just say, you've mentioned, there are plenty of things in this that are engaging in the way that I find horror to be engaging. My brain doesn't automatically classify it as horror in that way, that like overt horror feeds you and you define it as such. But
right.
There's a little moment in this. It's one of the few times where I went, oh fuck, audibly. It's when she goes to his desk and she picks up the drawing of the what did it used to be called?
Wait, it was the it was the body. It was like with the parts.
Yeah, with all the stuff. But
yeah.
That killer was called something, and I can't remember.
Yeah. I don't remember either.
But it's a wide shot of her, focuses on her, but you see the ladder and you see him climbing down it really fast, and he's so out of focus. I just went, oh fuck. And the very next shot is him in his socks go. And I'm like,
no.
Man, you can show me totem poles of bodies, and you can show people getting murdered and their throats slit, and the most this show felt like horror to me was
yeah,
that was good. Although, holy shit, when what's Dr. Sutcliffe is getting killed, and we see like Georgia like walk in, and we just because we saw the other body, the one that Georgia killed.
Yeah.
But that was the first time. Again, we've seen Hannibal kind of, but that was the first, like, just the sheer. There was something. Seeing the physical act showed me how he operates mentally, and I did not like it. Just the fucking way he's going through that fucker's face, and just the way Mads had to physically. That was unsettling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again, totem poles full of bodies didn't unsettle me. Watching Mads Mikkelsen cut into his face.
Aftermath is one thing. Like, it can tell a story. Like, I mean, I still, like, I mentioned the corpses that were harvesting mushrooms, and I mentioned the angels. Those are two aftermath situations that I don't enjoy beholding. That said, I will take them over procedure, over the act of murdering somebody. Because another one that I think about is, Jesus Christ, when Eddie Izzard had fucking Freddie Lowndes. I don't want to talk about her, but we will. But when he had her, like, in what, like an observatory or something like that?
Yeah.
With Raul Esparza, another Broadway staple, sitting there holding his own organs.
His guts. Yeah.
And she's just like, he's alive, or he's conscious, or whatever it is that she says. And I still don't feel bad for her the next time we see her. I felt bad for her right then and there, but I was like, something in the back of my head said, even though I feel bad for you, like right now, like nobody should have to like watch anybody endure this, let alone endure it themselves. But I'm not going to feel bad for you the next time I see you. I know it. She is actually probably the character. This isn't a criticism of the writing, but she's the character I have the biggest problem with, because every time she shows up, I'm like, you're bad neus. I don't like you. I don't, because I'm not convinced she's there for the truth. I'm not convinced she's there. She's got such a cheap, a dishonorable air about her that makes her just feel like the dregs of the earth. And that's another thing, to juxtapose her, somebody who's just, you know, going probably where she shouldn't, and, you know, undermining of the authority where she lives so she can like exploit people and tell lies or show things that she doesn't have any legal right to on her fucking website, fucking blogger. But, and then you've got Hannibal Lecter, and I'm sitting there going like, you know, I mean, he's not, I mean, he's human, you know? I mean, like mid-season, I am so much happier seeing Hannibal Lecter walk into a room than I am watching her walk into any room. And it's horrible. But I feel like they achieved something with that, because they've managed to make a person who's just kind of a little dishonest and a little greedy and a little self-serving be more distasteful than a cannibal and a liar and a sociopath.
I forget the name of the. It's just a little adaptation that I like, but in Manhunter, Freddie writes for like a tabloid newspaper, and I like that in this. Again, certain updates really, really work, and updating it to like a website, but also like clearly not the most reputable website. Just like it was never the most reputable newspaper. I thought that was good. I've never seen, and I don't mean this as a slight to the actors, but like the whole point, like I've never seen a Freddie that I've liked. Like I like that this show maintained. Fucking Freddie. So,
but I was so ready. I remember, it didn't take long for me to, the audience member in me under my breath murmur when I saw her disappoint me. Maybe the second time, I didn't like her on sight, but the second time I saw her, I remember being like, I can't wait to see you die. The detached TV viewer, not the human being. But the, you know, I mean, we know when we're horror fans. We know when we see a character, we're just kind of like, okay, you better die good, because I don't want to get cheated of your death scene. And the thing is, it'll be impressive if they kill her and I still manage to feel bad and not satisfied.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it if it happens.
Yeah. I don't know how to respond to that.
Then don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, again, because the show's in uncharted territories, so who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm curious if the show will follow the same path that Freddie has in other media.
Right. No, and I hear that, because also that's another thing I wanted to bring up, because you mentioned this being like an adaptation TV series, like kind of being a precursor to whatever media we had experienced this before, and most people experiencing it firsthand. It made me think about Bates Motel, certainly, where I went into that thinking, well, how far are we going to go? Like, are we going? Is the last scene of the final episode going to be like the first scene of the movie,
right?
Or, and I'm not going to answer that.
Movie?
No, exactly, and no spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen Bates Motel. Right. But same thing with prior to Bates Motel. That always felt like I always felt like I'm blessed, because I got Bates Motel and Smallville, my two my two childhood kind of like my geekdom. My superhero fandom and my horror fandom, and my heroes in both of them. I got Superman, Smallville, and I got Norman Bates, Bates Motel. I led a very charmed existence. But Smallville was the same thing. It was always like, well, when is it going to end? Like, how much of Superman are we going to get? And I loved, particularly the first time, going through it and just kind of like wondering each season, like, is this going to be the season? Oh, we're getting closer, and that was exciting. And I'm feeling similar things with this show. Wondering, are we going to get a Clarice? Are we even going to enter Red Dragon territory? And if we do, is it going to be equally revised, so it's not just kind of like, I mean, it has to be, but
it has to be, because certain things are already being plucked.
Exactly. But what and the how is what's keeping me watching. And good, the best shows that have done this, where they're basically preceding whatever material it was that I consumed prior to the reason I'm watching the show in the first place, is to learn kind of these origin stories. I love the ride, finding out like, oh, that's different.
Right. In fact, the fact that this show was Jack and Will and Hannibal, I almost was expecting this first season to just sort of be Manhunter. Especially when Alana is already kind of fulfilling the wife role.
Right.
And then the fact that it's not, which is to me great, but definitely expounding on the way Will works and giving us more than like what a 2-hour movie can do. But yeah, I think it's got to be fun for people, right? Like to just not, because that's the obvious thing, right? Like, we're just going to do Red Dragon as a show. It's the precursor to
Why bother?
Lambs, but to do such a precursor to go before all that, and to really play with, well, let's really have Hannibal assisting with the FBI, assisting Will, assist the FBI.
Yes.
So much so that you think the relationship is going to go where it does, and instead, by the time you get to the finale, it's Will behind bars, and instead of a hello Clarice, we get a hello Dr. Hannibal, essentially.
I love how also because I'm streaming it off Netflix, so I'm seeing the little ad imagery that they have up there, and one of the, I guess, thumbnails for it is Will with the mask, and it's saying Hannibal over it.
That was the poster for season 2.
Oh, okay, cool. Because as I'm watching it, I'm just kind of, because I also love the fact that I'll see imagery and not really like perceive it with movies that I haven't seen yet, or TV shows I haven't dove in yet. And I always love when I kind of get it. And I think it was around maybe episode 7 or 8 where I started to kind of piece together that Hannibal didn't have Will's best interest at heart, even though I felt like, oh my God, he wants to protect him. He's got a kinship. He sees someone who's worth saving. And it's like, but it's never going to supersede his innate curiosity for, well, what would happen if I did this? How, well, this can benefit me actually. And if I do this, it'll take the heat off me. I can't really turn that down. So, okay, now let's make this about how do I make this best serve me, and how do I behave as thoroughly as I can? Okay, I need to make a drawing of a clock and put the right date on it. I mean, meticulous attention to detail as with his like image that he's putting out to the world, it's also the case that he's making, and
Can I just say, speaking of the clock,
yes,
I love, because you want to talk about betrayal, because I know again it's these feelings I'm having versus my self-preservation, and I want the feelings to win out and they don't. But the fact that he goes and gets the brain scan and then fucking lies about the results, so that because we're seeing Will struggle with so much, and the fact that there are facts, and we're going to continue to let Will suffer, really pisses me off. So it really makes me happy that Alana is able to put the pieces together by the finale.
Yeah.
So that even though he's locked up, like he's in the hospital, like he's getting treatment. So hopefully he will be even behind bars a little better, a little more stable.
Yeah.
Not so fucking sweaty and freaked out every week. But it makes me so happy that she pieced that together. And is able to.
I wanted to piece more together. I mean, she already was on the right track.
Right.
But I'm like, more.
But
my girl.
But we're talking about not just we're talking about a physical, actual problem, and the fact that he needs that help. And
the right half of his brain is inflamed.
Right. So I'm just
half of it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Bless her. Oh, and we were talking about her before. I failed to mention the number one moment that she got me. And it's one, it's the writers, and then two, it's her. Yeah. But when I mean, I know he's trying to diffuse and everything because they almost had a thing, and now he's fucking being framed for all this horrible murder. And he's like, well, you really dodged a bullet. She goes, I don't feel like I dodged a bullet. And just every ounce of her performance, I feel wounded. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
She's great.
Weeping.
She's great.
Weeping, reaching for the TV. You've seen it.
Yeah. And you know me, I feel the emotions that one would feel that lead them to cry. Like I go, but then,
Yeah. You make the noises.
Yeah. I feel the feelings, No, she,
go like that.
Yeah. There were times because there are so many random musings, but here's some random musings. Ready? One of the things that really struck me is I don't watch a lot of network drama. I get a lot of my drama from cable shows, streaming. Network, I still find a lot of joy from comedy. But one thing I'm just personally not into, I'm not against it. I don't think it's bad. It's just not my cup of tea at all, is police procedural shows. I don't care about mysteries. I don't care about cops solving mysteries every week. And I was a little nervous that this show was going to maybe have like a through line, but do a lot of serial killer of the week episodes. And then we come back to the storyline, then another serial killer of the week, and the fact that you have Molly Shannon and maybe like another, but almost everything mattered to the major story. And even when you did have a serial killer of the week, there was so much still going on to the main characters. And sometimes the serial killer of the week still ends up informing so much, like what we have happen with fucking Dr. Sutcliffe in Georgia Mansion and all them. It all kind of feeds into a lot. So props to them for delivering. I was comforted because I just didn't want that. And I was afraid that it was going to become that. But also it much in the same way that there was like a new renaissance of TV comedies in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
There are this show, if the way it's like, there are what I would call like cable or HBO or Showtime type production values on display, as far as photography goes, as far as atmosphere goes, as far as quality of writing goes, that I feel like I haven't seen on, or at least that I've come to expect from network TV. Like this, I would imagine, if you're just watching a lot of network dramas, would feel like something special. So props to them for that. And also for Cut Above, I feel like there's I know Better Than Zero, and James Spader. James Spader is on like Blacklist, right? And there's
Less Than Zero, yeah.
Less Than Zero. There's Blacklist. There's another one where like the guy's dad was a serial killer. There's a lot of the serial killer working with someone shows, and
Sure.
this one definitely feels like a cut above the rest without having watched them. It just sort of, I mean, that's an interesting saturated market to dive into, and I think they definitely swam to the surface with this.
I concur, because I'm not really attracted to it as a rule. I mean, the problem is, like, so many of them run so damn long that it's like, okay, so if I get into it, then I'm no longer
8 seasons of
exactly. I'm going to be sitting through like 11 years worth of, you know, this, and who has the time for that right now? I'm working a full-time job, and I'm
I mean,
you know,
I have some time for it because I'm not working a full-time job. But
I don't pretend the work that I do is essential, but my store won't close. So what are you going to do? But no. So, I mean, I would happily dive into so much right now if I could, but I'm happy to be where I am, because another thing that this achieves in terms of because it is an adaptation of source material that I'm already familiar with, which, I mean, it could easily go wrong, but I think aside from adjusting things in the adaptation, I think another thing that this does that I didn't actually articulate to myself until now, because Smallville and Bates Motel both do the same thing, is ultimately one huge theme that these series kind of rely on is secrecy. All three of them, Smallville, Bates Motel, and Hannibal, all rely on so much of the drama being preventable if only people wouldn't lie to themselves and wouldn't lie to each other. And that's where the drama comes from. And that's also where, I don't know what kind of, where seeing people who you feel like you know where they're going to land. So how do you watch it without kind of like just giving you the result? Well, what are their contradictions? What are their hypocrisies? What are the things that they're willing to, what are the things they don't know about themselves yet that are ultimately going to serve them when they, you know, can find them as a strength, can kind of like realize you are this legend? Or are they even going to become that legend, or are they going to become something else? Like, that's another thing that just like feeds my little fanboy heart, where I'm just sitting here going, because again, it'd be interesting to talk to somebody who has no knowledge whatsoever. I mean, good luck finding someone, but who has no knowledge whatsoever as to Silence of the Lambs or who Hannibal Lecter is and what he does, and to sit them through this series. I wonder what they would make of him, especially the first 3 episodes where he's just throwing lovely dinner parties and serving people and consulting. And wait, that doesn't make any sense. Is he a bad guy? I mean, I would love actually to introduce somebody who has no familiarity with the source material to this series and just see what they think episode by episode.
I used to always, when I was a teen in my 20s, used to wish there was a little pill you could take that would just make you forget everything for like 2 hours. And then you watch Citizen Kane for the first time. You can watch Psycho for the first time, you know, and find out who Kaiser Soze is again for the first time. And yeah, if there was like a 17-hour pill, you know.
And you'd binge.
Yeah.
This is a rough show to binge, though. I got to say, like, I had to take my time. I couldn't do the first half of the season. I couldn't do more than 2 episodes at a time. And then the back end, I actually did 4 in one night, because the betrayal had happened, and I was like, I need to know.
Right. I had one day where I did about 3 or 4, but on average I did like 1 to 2, just because it almost was like a fine wine. Like, I don't want to overdo it. But it was also, I definitely had to go day to day. I never went like a day without it. And that's another thing about streaming it on Netflix is I would not enjoy waiting week to week for this show. That would have pissed me the fuck off.
That pisses me off anyway. That's why I only stream now.
No, but even then, like, there are certain comedy shows, even certain, you know, superhero shows where I can go week to week. But the way this flows, I wouldn't have wanted to wait week to week. But moreover, the tone of the show is so unique, right? At least for network TV. But this show has a particular voice. It has a particular cadence. That same way, there's just certain writers, there's just certain things. Like when you're watching Mammoth, you know, it's fucking Mammoth. There's something about this, and so many of the Will and Hannibal office scenes, and I would hate to go from that to a fucking commercial for Starbucks and then a Sprint PCS, or whatever, like, and then your Spectrum commercial. Like, I am so glad I'm watching this streaming, because commercial breaks would have fucking pissed me off.
Yeah,
I mean, there are times. It's a tone. There's tone matters to me, but like, there are beats in this where I'm like, people don't fucking talk this way to each other. But I'm not watching reality. I'm watching Hannibal, and I'm watching these very kind of professional adults that are so calm, have these very moody exchanges in offices, and I fucking soak it. I like it. But it's definitely a choice. I mean, the closest thing that it comes to breaking is, and it doesn't, but like Dan Fogler, but his character has his own energy. But
his character feels in this world, like, it's sad to say, but he feels like a fool.
I was saying, he feels like a kid.
Oh, I see. Kids can be fools, but
exactly. Yeah, no, but I feel like he's an adult age, but
there's an unspoiled something
not fully ripe yet about him, masquerading as an adult.
Yeah, not ripe is perfect. He's kind of half formed. He's not done baking yet.
Yeah.
And now he's ruined forever. Well, now he's gone. But, there was one thing that I thought also though. I mean, it's funny because we said both things, and I believed both of them while we said them. We said we didn't really believe that Hannibal had this plan the whole time. Like, like from episode 1 was like, oh, I know what I'm going to do. But I wonder when it flipped for him. That would be an interesting thing to come back in a season 4, because another thing we both acknowledged was him tying those flies. I don't remember which episode that was or how early it was in the season.
It was episode 4.
It was? Okay, good. I want to revisit season 1. Of course, after we're done with the whole series, I want to go back and watch season 1 and look for, is there a moment I didn't know to look for where he makes the decision, or did he really at least want the option the whole time? And who knows if Will's the only person he's done this to. Will was certainly like a good candidate to frame from the beginning, just based off of his reputation. I mean, people in the town know. And it made me think about, if he did have it planned from the beginning, there's this odd, unsettling equilibrium within Hannibal that actually made me think about Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame, in terms of like this complete, again, I'm sorry I keep saying detachment, but this complete reserve about what he's going to do, and just that's a fact, the acceptance that is a fact. There's no reasoning with him to make him stop, and yet there's still this ability to feel a connection, a kind of connection, his brand of a connection to somebody, the closest thing that can resemble love, that maybe you or I wouldn't recognize as love, but that, I mean, it's the closest he's ever going to get, whether we're talking Thanos or Hannibal. I even just wrote Thannibal. The end credit for rolling, I had to doodle something. But I also I have questions. If anybody wants to comment, if you know, I'll do some research myself. And I also wonder if I'm going to get more access in this show. Because one thing Casey did say was, I'd be really careful about your sources for studying, a sociopathology in TV shows and movies, because they don't always get it right. They have a job to dramatize things and to sometimes even sensationalize. She says, it sounds like it's a really good show, but just know, it's Hannibal the Cannibal. It's not, But it made me wonder how much of being a sociopath or a psychopath is rooted in power and power play. I know you see people as objects to be manipulated, because I've seen documentaries where that is described, but I don't know if there is a satisfaction. That's another question in my head about Hannibal. It's just like, does he get off on controlling? Because actually the only other kind of like present for years and years in my head thing that I carry about sociopaths, I got from Sharon Stone in her, yeah, I know, she did her research for Basic Instinct, and she got asked in her actor's studio, spoilers for Basic Instinct, guys, sorry. If you don't want to hear, fast forward 60 seconds. But no, she got asked by James Lipton in her actor's studio interview at the very end when she's consummating with Michael Douglas's character, and we see that there's an ice pick underneath the bed. And is she gonna, and that just the end of the movie, is she gonna reach for it? Is he gonna live? And he asked her, because I have you here tonight, will you please share with us whether he lives or not? And she laughed for like a good 30 seconds and then said, he can't live. And he just turned to the audience and said, this is turning into one of the most interesting nights we've ever had on this stage. And she says, the class settled, and she just said, he can't live because she's a sociopath, and it's him or her. That's what that means. And I remember thinking, okay, is that what that means? Like, I have to destroy you. And again, I had to wonder, like, what is that rooted in, though? Like, is that like, if I don't destroy you, then I'll become destroyed? Or if I don't destroy something else, then I cease existing? Like, I wonder what is the, I mean, it's odd to call it rationale, but it's just I've got all these questions that are being reintroduced into my head about psychopaths and sociopaths, because I know psychopathology is like, you can be a sociopath and a psychopath, but just because you are a sociopath doesn't mean you are a psychopath. So it's, oh my God, never fathom the human mind, fictitious or otherwise. It's just, but these are the kinds of questions that are being brought up for me, like bubbles in a jacuzzi. As I'm watching this show, it's just kind of like, my brain is brewing. And I'm very, very grateful. And I saw that a few, actually just like within the past month, Collider did an interview, a pretty lengthy one, with Hugh Dancy and with Bryan Fuller, discussing Hannibal. I don't want to watch it yet because I'm sure they're covering the entire series, and I don't want to know things yet. But I put it in my watch later on YouTube, and after we're done with this, but probably before we have our season 3 discussion, I want to watch it, and I want to see what kind of questions they get and what their answers are. So there's that.
Yeah, I'd be down for that too. Yeah. I'm avoiding all informational, promotional things.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about wanting to go back and look at certain things again, one of the things that I thought of was, and I don't have the impulse to do this very often, I would like to watch some of these episodes with commentary.
Me too.
To really hear what Bryan Fuller has to say about certain things and make you go, aha, I was right, or I didn't think about that. And that same way you'd be looking for visual clues, sometimes I would just want to hear that.
Mm-hmm. And the writers, the writing team, that would be absolutely incredible.
Halfway through this season, I couldn't help not draw comparisons at all, but just that I started thinking about Dexter Morgan.
I thought about it at one point, or maybe 2 or 3 points too.
But did you watch it?
I watched up until like mid-season 2.
Okay.
And I checked out. I was like, I just don't care anymore.
Oh, but season 4 was the shit.
Okay.
For what it's worth. Like, that was the high point. Oh my God. But I just couldn't help but think, with this high functioning sociopath. Yeah. Like, I just had this weird tickle of an idea of, I want to see Dexter and Hannibal in a room together and just see how does that go? How does that dinner go? Do they become friends? No. Do they find? Probably not. But I just couldn't help but think, what if? That was fun. But only Dexter from the first 4 seasons before the showrunner left. I don't want the later Dexter to.
Everybody says that it unravels at some point, but the point changes for different people.
Sure.
That's something that's always different.
People write off season 5. I still think there's value in season 5. I think there's a lot of value in some of the later seasons, but it definitely is a line in the sand as far as what Dexter was and then what Dexter kind of becomes. But
okay.
One little thing that made me chuckle.
Yeah.
It was when Jack flashes his FBI badge to Bedelia, to Gillian Anderson. And I just thought about like all the years she spent flashing her FBI badge to just have someone else do it. It's gonna be chuckle. The little things.
Another thing. Go ahead.
I also chuckled. I think it was the first episode where, God, yeah, Jack's talking to Will in this bathroom that is so blatantly a Shining bathroom, the red and the white. And I'm like, yeah. And then like, I think 6 episodes later, they're investigating the guy who had his ribs cut and he's sitting in the tub. And I'm looking at this bathroom going, hang on a second, and then I Googled the image and sure enough, it's like the same rounded arches. Like I don't know if it's the production designer having fun or one of the producers, but somebody for funsies is tickling my little Shining itch, and I appreciate it. I see you, and thank you. That was a hoot.
I would appreciate it too, except I've had nightmares about the red bathroom.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the old, the curtain being pulled from the green bathroom.
No, I'm fine with that. That's fine. No, I think the thing that's unsettling is I've not only had nightmares, I've had dreams. Like I always have dreams where I'm on stage doing some show. It's always a show. It's always going well, and then I go backstage behind the area, the performance area, and it's that bathroom. The whole backstage area is just
that scene. The way it unfolds is it's a big turning.
But the thing is, sometimes it's just like a pedestrian dream, and it's not really about anything. And then sometimes it is terrifying, and I never know which way it's going to go. So every time I see that image, and for the longest time, I thought I came up with it.
Were you triggered?
And then I rewatched The Shining because I think I saw it when I was really young, and then I rewatched it probably, I don't know, maybe 20s or something, and I was like, "That's my bathroom. That's that's where I fucking got it," because it seems so evocative. I was like, it doesn't feel like that came out of me. And I'm like, that's you fucking Kubrick. And so when I saw it in the show, I was still, because it was early on too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like the first
red
episode.
bathroom. Yeah, it was like the first or second episode. I was already like off, like Hannibal just kept throwing me off my game, and I kept going, I'm scared. I saw that bathroom, I was like, fuck you show. I don't want to play anymore. You're gonna show me more things. They're gonna make me think about bad things, and I don't even, not even make me think about bad things specifically, but just you're going to bring out an unconscious reaction in me.
I don't think that was their intention, but yeah.
But I don't care. It's happening. They're doing it. It's effective. Fuck you for playing me like a violin, not even knowing what instrument you're holding.
What's the actor's name who played Dr. Chilton? Frederick Chilton?
That's Raul Esparza, right?
Yeah. He props to him.
God.
Because Dr. Chilton's usually such an asshole. I just, I watched Silence of the Lambs like a week before I watched this, and I'm like, fucking Chilton's an asshole. And this guy shows up, and I'm like, is this a consistent thing? And is Chilton always just a fucking prick? But he was good. Yeah.
He was, he was prickish. He was certainly, I was just kind of like, he's got that stick up his butt that I'm just like, okay, this is right. But I was shocked that it was.
Shut the fuck up is basically all I think.
But I was so proud of Raul Esparza because I've seen him in, I think, 3 Broadway shows now. And one was Taboo, where he played basically our narrator, like all dressed in a wedding dress with long, beautiful black curly hair. And then in Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, he played the Dick Van Dyke role on Broadway. And in Company, the production where they all played their own instruments like 15 years ago, he was in that. Amazing, beautiful tenor voice. Can do pretty much, I guess, anything now, because this is the first time I saw him play a character that I didn't like, and I don't hate him, because he's so perfect. But yeah, I thought he did a really, really good job. But I forgot to mention something. Yes. Can I go back to something? Just a little thing. Go for it.
When I was talking about how great Lawrence Fishburne is. You know what gets me is when they're in the alley and the dude's strung up on the scaffolding.
Mm-hmm.
And again, they've repurposed almost like a Silence of the Lambs kill with his skin and the wings out. And Will's like, if you don't like what I have to say, like, you're the head of this department, like, why don't you fucking figure it out or something? And Lawrence Fishburne just goes, like, I did not just hear that, did I? And fucking Scott Thompson and the other two were like, peace out.
Yes, silently just out.
That fucking bellow, like, Lawrence fucking Fishburne, man. Like, I felt like I wanted to apologize as Will. I'm like, oh fuck, I'm in trouble with that.
When Lawrence Fishburne is pissed off at you, I don't care who you are, something in you is unsettled. And even if you don't want to apologize, I think you might entertain it just to kind of get him to not be mad at you anymore. Yeah. Because if Lawrence Fishburne ever takes a step toward me and addresses me in that fashion and just says, I did not just hear, I'd be like, oh, I fucked up. Oh God, I am so fired or whatever for life. I am fired from life. I'm just gonna stay in my house and hope that I have enough to live out the rest of my days. And I'm not allowed to be in the world anymore.
Have you ever been in that situation? Not necessarily Will's, but when you're the other three, like, and you, like, all right, it's time to fucking go. And he absolutely created it so that I completely believe them. Yeah. By the way, I kind of love that of the three of them, the dark-haired guy with the beard is, for lack of a better term, the funny one. At least kind of has sassy.
The wisecracking one, certainly, yeah.
I love that Scott Thompson isn't the funny one. Like, he's not playing the funny guy.
He's got a few moments. Like, he had one where he was just kind of like, where we found out he was a twin.
I'm agreeing with you. Was one.
Or when we find out that he's a twin, he was just like, who wouldn't want more than one of me? And that was it. Like,
and for the love of God, can I have an appearance of a twin somewhere later in the show?
I don't know.
Just can his brother come to work for, like, bring your brother to work day?
I don't know if the show can take that. Like, we'll see if that's in store. But another thing is it Beverly, the woman who works with both of them? That's her name, right? I kept waiting it for a long time, and then finally somebody, I knew they were talking about her, and I thought they said Beverly, and I was like, okay, she's Beverly. And I don't know why I don't just check IMDb, but I'm too busy watching the show.
I call them just those three, and I think of them as three.
So when the lady of the three,
yes,
let's just call her Beverly.
Yeah.
And if you that'll just, I think that is her name. But anyway, because she's another character who, when she was introduced initially, I did not actually like her, because she was wisecracking too, but she was wisecracking directly with Will, and I didn't like it. I was like, read the room, lady. He's more fragile than you're treating him, and you're almost kind of teasing him, and I don't like it. I knew I was going to be more attracted, not in a, sexual or romantic way, but just more drawn to characters who were going to challenge Will when he needed to be challenged, but also understand he's a man with a condition. We have to respect that. And she just kind of felt treating him a little too frivolously, especially somebody in her position who should know that, but then it's interesting, because when she started to worry about him, and I don't mean worry even in a deep personal way, but just the way you would worry about a coworker when you hear they're a suspect or that they're starting to lose their mind, you could just hear that somebody was found last night walking around on the open highway, in just their boxers and t-shirt, and then you see them the next day at work, you're going to be a little, how's it going?
Yeah.
You all right? You might even have a smile on your face, but there's going to be a little distance and I'm listening a little bit more intently to what you're saying, because it might mean something. and I'm watching you because I want to see if you're going to go off. And when she started to really kind of perceive him, even though she was kind of perceiving him as a threat, I felt like she was more questioning it, to the point where while she was cleaning under his fingernails,
Oh yeah,
I was like, now I'm watching, because this is one thing I always liked about her. I thought she's good at her job. I knew that early on. I was like, okay, so it's not like she's irresponsible. She's just a little tactless. But then by the time when she could speak to him while she's literally cleaning the remains of Abigail from underneath his fingernails, and talking to him finally with the kind of sensitivity he probably could have used in the first episode, I felt more drawn to her. I felt more endeared to her, and I'm like, okay, now I'm hoping I see more of you, because you're talking to him like he's a person, like he is certainly a suspect, but you're appealing to the facts. You're appealing to the part of his brain that is not inflamed, and the part of him that isn't cloudy and doesn't know. She's saying, well, what do you know? And I fucking lived for it, so I wanted that to be paid its due.
on the one hand, like, I think if you're going by the book, this is not a conversation you should be having. But just based on what they've all been going through, I understood why she was pressing that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like, in a court of law, like, you maybe shouldn't be having that kind of discussion right now.
Yeah.
How do you resist it though? That reminds me of when you mentioned wringing the blood out of his nails. When we were talking about the stag, that was another thing that further justified my point. Was that he has the dream where he hunts the stag and then it transitions, and it wasn't just thematically that he's piecing things together, which is true, but specifically I remembered just now that I remember thinking about this earlier, that when he wakes up from that dream is when he goes and vomits up the ear.
Yes.
In the morning, and that's what also solidified it for me, was that that it wasn't just at random, but that was the first time, because Hannibal must have his ways, maybe via drugging you, but that is
there were pills in the sink,
right? That's direct engagement from Hannibal. That is Hannibal the man, even though he's asleep and drugged, coming into contact with him. Therefore, that's the dream where it becomes a man. At least that's what I took from it.
Okay.
It wasn't as random. Like, that's
knowing what ultimately is going to happen with every one of these people is going to make watching it. That's another thing I love, is revisiting shows like this where I know everything and I get to, and in that essence, it's almost like getting to watch it all over again, because the shocks are different. The reveals happen in different places all of a sudden. You can see, like I said, you can see where maybe a seed was planted and you didn't even recognize it because you didn't know what was being planted for you. And then you go back, you're like, it was there the whole time, that kind of thing. Like, another thing.
It's how I felt about the lure. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, just to go back to Jack Crawford, because we've talked a lot about Lawrence Fishburne, but one thing that I love about the way he's written overall is the fact that I still have faith in this man who is getting everything wrong, and I still want him to succeed, not just for Will's sake, but for his own sake, because I think he's better than this. And even though he's feeding this theme, I wrote down Jack Crawford is not by the book, even though he would like to appear that way. He speaks with the kind of authority that he is, but his observation of the rules is as arbitrary and personally based as anyone else in this show. And I want this character, who by the end of the season has gotten everything wrong, to I care about him. I want him to be better than that, and I also want him to see Will clearly. I mean, I feel like this is the thing, is like, I just feel like the truth coming out will only, the damage is going to be done.
Yeah.
Who knows who's going to be capable of healing after all this? Because I know it's not over. Season 2 isn't just going to open and it's all solved. But I'm still reaching for hope. I'm still, I don't want Hamlet at the end of this. I don't want everybody to just be dead, or for the people who are living to have nothing really to look forward to, because it's just about this period and how fucked up it was. Now there's a new period. That's Hamlet. I'd prefer if it were a little bit more like life, and some people lose, some people just kind of live and carry things and persevere, and other people are just expire as a result of it, or incidentally. Like, I mean, I really hope nothing happens to Bella. I want her to just kind of, I mean, she's got enough on her plate, being stage 4 cancer and everything like that. I don't want anything bad to happen to her outside of what is pending. I'm scared. I'm so scared of going into season 2, because I feel like I really care about these people now.
Yeah, I'm really nervous.
I'm going to be a wreck.
I'm nervous about whatever truths come forward. I'm really nervous for how Alana is going to handle it all.
Yeah.
But also, I wasn't expecting, especially when the show started, for me to care so much about Will. I mean, obviously he's our protagonist, but there came a point in the show where I'm just like, fuck, I want to step into the TV and just give this dude a fucking hug. And then, because it just gets to this point where things get worse and worse and worse and worse for him. And to see that Jack's, I went into this expecting a certain degree of, from what I know from Manhunter, like, I can see a crime scene, I can put my head in the mind of a killer. Sometimes it gets too much, and that's the danger that Jack puts me in. But I didn't expect the show to keep going with it to such a degree, to quote unquote, for lack of a better word, to be so existential and psychological about how much we're gonna push this fucking guy. Yeah, and especially to see Jack struggling with knowing what he's doing to Will, but for the sake of a greater good, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like, the truth coming out for Jack.
Oh,
that's not going to be a relief.
I mean, even the fake truth of Will is already.
Yeah. But if Jack
to see
ever
they let
finds
the
out,
snake play them all, and you know.
Yeah.
Also,
that's
random side note. I forgot to mention this earlier, but the girl who plays Abigail Hobbs, I wrote her name down. Casey Roll. She was on Arrow for a pretty recurring character for like the last 2 seasons.
Oh, okay.
And
not that far, I don't think.
First of all, this is a hell of a role.
Yes.
And she really fucking steps up to the plate and delivers. But I didn't even realize it until maybe 10 episodes in. I'm like, oh shit. I'm just always fascinated when someone can play, or it's locked in my brain as such a specific type.
Yeah.
But Abigail and her on Arrow are like on 2 different fucking planets. So like, props to her. She's the goods, man. She's the fucking goods.
Well, even like Abigail first episode of this season, and Abigail last episode of this season.
Oh my god. I think it's the last episode where she's talking with Freddie about the book and about what really happened to Nicholas Boyle, and that cool defensiveness, and then Freddie like reading through it. I mean, Abigail's great. Casey Roll is great.
Yeah, she is. Because she makes me buy every step of it. I believed in the beginning that she was the poor victim of this father who was maniacal, and then as we started to learn more and more about her, I believed it. I never thought like, oh, that would have been interesting if they had somebody who I could actually believe was carrying that with them this whole. I mean, I believe that she's been carrying that this whole time. Yeah. It makes her odd detachment at the onset when she's talking to, I think it's Alana in like the little place she's staying. I think is it a hospital? I don't even remember now.
Yeah, she's just
she's just kind of staying somewhere, just kind of like recovering and everything. And I can't remember if it's Alana, because she talks to Will there too. and she talks to Freddie Lowndes at some point really early on, but I can't remember who she's talking to, but yeah, it is. I feel like it is Alana, where she just talks about the house and how she wants the house.
Yeah, I think so.
And Alana even, that's when I'm like, that was one of the moments where I was just kind of like, yeah, I like you, because the way Alana's listening to her, she's not looking at her with an accusatory look, but she is looking at her with a really, really beautifully subtle, suspicious look. Just kind of like, that's an interesting thing to be
and there's a
talking
few
about
things
right now.
that she says that you're like, but she plays the weight of the truth and the guilt and like the nerves that come with it so well. She's great.
Yeah. And then also just she's in torment, like a sense of inner torment, and being pulled in different directions over a lot of different things, even between the people who are immediately in front of her in the aftermath. Who do I trust? Who do I listen to? And then finally, as it more is revealed over like what she's done and what she's going to continue to do and what she's continuing to lie about, and just the prospect of having to carry things with her and looking to Hannibal as, I don't even want to say a role model so much as a guide through this. And again, him just establishing a connection with her, what we believe is a connection, what we believe is something personal, and then just finding he was just curious the whole time. And then with Will, speaking to him with this kind of kinship, but they always manage, it's more her, I feel, and I hope this is correct, but I feel like she always manages to kind of like twist the knife a little bit more with Will. Like they'll be sitting there talking and they'll make a connection, but then he'll kind of like throw some truth her way, and she'll just kind of throw some truth right back at him about like how, not unreliable, but just kind of maybe unhinged or maybe unpredictable he is. And I don't like that, because it's true, but it's rude.
Right. And at that point in the show, that's when I'm like, I need to give Will a hug.
Yeah. I would hug Will a lot. But that's another thing I have to say. Aesthetically, like in the beginning, maybe around like episodes 3 and 4 and 5 before Fromage, where I really start rooting for her. I couldn't come up with a clever connect name for Will Graham and Hannibal Lecter to kind of like put their names together, because I was actually going, just one love scene or one even implied. Like, I mean, this is the thing. I don't like the term bromances, but I love movies about male relationships where they actually do care about each other. And certainly, it can move to a sexual thing, and I love that. But I really love movies that are about friendships, that celebrate a tenderness between men, that don't go romantic. Like from Quiz Show to some other movie.
Super bad.
I had another, yeah, sure. No, and I had other examples, but I can't remember them because it's getting later and it's hot. I've been sweating. Sorry, folks. But no, but I mean, so watching two men kind of reach for each other and find solace, enough of a solace that like, you're the only person I can speak to like this kind of thing, with both coming from both of them. And also like, I feel lost, you make me feel a little less lost kind of thing, coming from both of them. And it doesn't get spelled out. They're not sitting there saying, you make me feel less like
right.
They don't have to, because by the time Hannibal's discussing him with Gillian Anderson, I feel like he's just kind of revealing things that, like with words that I've already beheld in his interactions, but I'm happy to have him confirm them and take that information with me. I felt like after Fromage, I was too hopeful. I felt like my anchor for the show was going to be the friendship, the mutual reach for friendship between these two men. And what makes me sad is I'm still kind of looking forward to a semblance of that, because there's an odd kick I get off watching male relationships where one man is manipulating the other, like Amadeus, hello, and because he feels like I can manipulate you. I'm in a position of power and I admire you and I want to be close to you, but for whatever reason, I don't have the capacity to just include you in my life and be your boon companion or be your mentor or whatever. I have to fuck with you. I have to tear you down and uplift myself. And spoilers for Amadeus, folks. And I find that fascinating. That kind of it's almost beyond rivalry. It just becomes about an oddly specific connection that I find fascinating, and I can't wait to see what season 2 is going to kick off between them.
Yeah,
in that vein. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I had the weirdest. It's not the same kind of relationship, but I had the weirdest thing when you were talking to In the Company of Men. When it came to like Aaron Eckhart just going like, I have to tear you down, because then the difference is that movie, like the friendship itself is a fucking lie, but that same impulse of, I'm getting something from you, but I need to just fucking destroy you now.
Yeah. Nothing's coming to me. I have tons of notes, but I don't know how long have we been talking?
Over 2 hours.
Okay. Maybe
2 hours,
maybe
15 minutes about. It's a good.
I don't know. Oh, I just wrote, how many laws is Crawford breaking? Episode 11, first question I had at the top of the episode was, how many laws? Because, my God, I mean, talk about taking the law into your own hands. I mean, everybody, I guess in closing, the most arresting thing about this show, aside from the almost artistic means of like killing people, it does feel like art installations in an incredibly fucked up way, because they're not real. They're in a show, they're created by a team that's responsible for them. The Colombian necktie was a big one for me, just with the tongue coming out of the never saw that before. And that one didn't make my flesh crawl the same way the angels and the mushroom garden people who were alive harvest thing. So it did feel more like Grand Guignol, like let's celebrate the beauty of these horrific images kind of thing, because I couldn't look away, but I couldn't look without
majesty the way they're presented. Yeah,
because there's more than one. Like all of a sudden you see like there's two like laying next to each other, and you're just like, my mind never went there. I've seen The Grudge, so I know what it looks like when there's nothing here and there's just the insides, exposed, I guess, or, a speculation of what it would look like. I don't know if it's medically accurate, but this looks, number one, it looks medically accurate. And number two, my mind never went there. I couldn't even imagine such a thing. It feels like it has to be based on something somebody would actually do. And that makes me a little unsettled and terrified, but it feels so distant. I won't have nightmares about it. It's too distant. My brain can't fathom it. So
yeah, there's definitely not only could your brain not fathom it, but like I'm just impressed that this is on network TV. I mean, I remember what a big deal it was, I think in the 90s, when they're like, hey, we're going to see Dennis Farina's ass on NYPD Blue. And then like the first time they got to say like son of a bitch on network TV. And then it got to the point where like, well, now you can just say son of a bitch like after 10 p.m. And then cable shows can say fuck after 10 p.m. and we can show Walking Dead gore. And now like certain shit, now, at some point it didn't have to be after 10 p.m. anymore. But still, there was a certain limitation like networks had. But like this is a hell of a thing to be on, what I think, NBC.
I don't know because I'm just streaming, but yeah.
I mean, they're lucky that a lot of the times it's not the act; it's the aftermath. But it's a hell of an after. But within those confines, again, watching Hannibal just cutting that fucker's mouth, like Jesus,
violence. I wonder if it was like preceded by disclaimers when it was on the but and also just the fact that there's such a loose morality. I think about like the old, like, I think it was even before the MPAA, like the way movies, you know, villains always had to like find, you know, some kind of like outcome that was like a penalty.
Yes.
And the good guys always had to win and avenge the wrongs and whatever twisted way, you know, Hollywood saw fit to do that.
The code.
The fact that there's actually room for ambiguity and room for me to like simultaneously be terrified of a man and lust after him. I mean, I don't want to go all, what's that show that everybody was doing that was also on Netflix where what's his name literally had to come forward and say, I'm playing a serial killer, stop like posting about how you don't care. What is it?
I forget, but I remember when the actor had to do that.
Yeah. And so I don't want to sound like that's what I'm doing, but I mean, it's already been established in a few episodes ago that cinematically, there's quite a few multiple murderers who I fancy. Yeah. We'll give you the list someday, folks.
Yeah. We've already discussed Norman Bates before, so we know that.
There's plenty. There are plenty more. I think I have enough for a top 10 list. I think I have enough.
I do think it's interesting that, like you said, but for me, it's he is clearly, you know, like a villain, but I could still lust after that office, that fucking delicious office.
He still has things, like he hasn't paid a price, and the thing is ultimately...
And I love that they don't go a more obvious route where like we're going to reimagine it where he's like the anti-hero, like he's bad but you still root for him. Like no, he is the fucking villain.
Yeah, he's terrible.
He makes horrible choices, not just murderous choices but towards Will and self-preservation, but at least we get to like he isn't so closed off as the villain. Like we get to understand machinations of things that at least makes him, but that's not to be confused with, you know, you can't help it whether you're attracted to him. He wears very nice suits and he's got an accent. I get it, but like the show isn't saying that. You're saying that,
right? No, and I'm also, I mean, like I said, like there's a lot of traits that I attribute. Like, of course, these are the traits you look for, and then here's the thing. But that's another thing that I love about this show is that the thing that made me cross the line. And I don't think I'd feel this way about somebody in actuality, but I know, you know, here I know he's eating people, I know he's killing people, I know he's getting away with it and hiding it and playing with the FBI and everything like that, you know. But the thing that makes me turn on him is the fact that he is like the worst friend ever. That's when I'm just kind of like, Hannibal, you let me down. I used the word betrayed because I felt betrayed. I felt like, you know what? I thought you were capable of a version of friendship and your own kind of like level of caring about somebody. But you know what, man, you fucked up. You know what? Friends don't do this to people. So who the fuck are you? Know what? Fuck you and you're fucking. I mean, I just get mad. I just get defensive. I'm like, okay, Will's my guy. Will's my boy. I got his back. If I hear that you're bothering him, you're gonna have to deal with me.
If you put another fucking ear down his throat when he's sleeping.
I just get that, like, now I'm Will's buddy. I'm going into season 2, and I'm the friend. That's why when I see him with Alana, I'm just kind of like,
right.
She gets it.
I'm curious. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much, but I am curious if Hannibal is still going to try to create or reach for that kind of friendship, and how much of it's going to be Will and me going, no, like as a fucking like you don't let him back in. He burned that bridge.
It's going to be interesting seeing what they do, and also, because Hannibal knows things. He can perceive like the natural path that a person's like. I think anything that Will throws at him, he's going to say, I can see where you would feel that way. It's only natural to react when A plus B equals C. And still feel a closeness to him, still want to know what's going on in his head, and still want to still have that curiosity.
He doesn't have a lot of other people in his life, really. That get
a lot
him,
of
or at
people
least
that
understand what he's going through the way that Hannibal does.
Or even that interest him. I mean, that's the
Right.
thing, is like, Tobias didn't interest him in the least. And I was oddly comforted by that.
Mm-hmm. No, I meant Will doesn't have a lot of people to.
Will. No. I'm just
Why'd
you have to say that? Now I'm sad.
He's got dogs.
But he doesn't. Alana's got the dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Poor Will. That should be season 2. Just
poor Will.
Subtitle every episode. Poor Will 1, poor Will 2.
The subtitle for season 1. All right, the posters of Will when he is dreaming, and he's and there's the stag. He's got the gun.
Yeah.
And poor Will just trying to do the right thing. Good Will Hunting. You hate me.
No, I don't hate you.
But that is what the first season is.
I've graduated to another level of
disdain.
No, there's a great, I think it's a Lillian Hellman quote from The Little Foxes where she says, you hate me? And he goes, she says to her husband, and he says, no. And she says, oh, I think you do. Well, we've never been very good together. Besides, I don't hate you either. I've only ever felt contempt for you. And I'm like, what's the difference? But I feel like I want to say that to you right now.
I think you just learned.
I don't hate you, John Carlos. I only feel contempt for you.
You fucking love me.
It feels powerful saying it, though. Like, I like saying it. But yeah, I love you. Shut up.
Yeah.
Hannibal. I'm just going to start calling you Hannibal when I'm pissed off at you. Now I know what Will's fucking talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a cosplay we could do. I'm not a big cosplayer, but let me lose the lockdown weight, and I'll get myself a little pair of boxers and a white t-shirt. Grow out my curly hair.
Yeah, just get a wig.
I want it to be authentic. I want you to be able to see the sweat dripping from my curls, Will Graham style. And you just get like a tailored suit, and we'll just, get your hair combed, exquisitely, and just sweeping.
Yeah.
Oh, the Johnny Depp of it all, Anything else from you?
This is so stupid, but I have to ask you, like, in life.
Yes.
Do you ever do this where you hear like the name of a movie or a thing, and the phonetics of it, the rhythm of it will match like a song, so then you make up the little ditty, like if a show. Yeah. So then every time it's
that.
I have a song.
What is it?
And I sing it when it's time to watch the show.
No. What is it? I'm not going to be able to unhear this. So
you won't.
I'm giving you a great gift.
I think I'm not even going to tell you. I think I'm just going to start singing it. But you have to remember the bass line of the boom. But when I try in here to tell you, dear, I love you madly, madly, Mr. Cannibal Hannibal. It's a long lost cause. I can never win. For a civilized world that accepts unforgivable sin. And you're talking out loud with any cannibal, like Mr. Hannibal. Every time I'm like, it's time to watch Hannibal, I hear.
Okay, you're mad.
But it's so good. Marian Librarian.
Yes. No, Music Man rocks, but that's always been true. But I thought you meant, because this is something I've actually done, because I don't have that per se, But what I've actually done is, if there's a theme song, like in the opening credits of any TV show with no words, I've oftentimes just given myself words to sing along. But usually it's something with a bit more fluff. I don't really do it with dramas. Although I think the most dramatic show I did it was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because the theme song just goes down, 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 and like a just like kind of like that throughout. So I just keep singing Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh yeah, I had
Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Buffy. I just sing that over and over again. And one of the best ones was
Game of Thrones, Game of Thrones, or as my friends would sing, Game of Thrones time as they enter. Yeah.
But my favorite is I think the Golden Girls one, because it's just backup. Because it's like, thank you for being a friend. And I say, being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. A confidant. And if you threw a party, woo! Everybody woo. And invited everyone you knew. Everyone you knew. You would see the biggest gift would be from me. And the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. A friend. You are my friend. Try unhearing that, motherfucker.
Yeah, I shan't.
It puts you in the right mood to watch Golden Girls. I was so terrified that you were going to sing something that went with the opening credits. So when I watched it, I would hear, okay, good. No, but I love that you have a little, it's time.
Yeah.
That's adorable. That might change Marion the Librarian for me, actually, more so than I might just every now and then go, Hannibal. That's fun. That's fun.
And I like to imagine the two of them doing a little,
No!
And then Will does that little shoulder to shoulder bit. Like Hannibal's like. But if anything, it feels more like I Love You Madly Madly would be Hannibal to Will, not Will to Hannibal. But still, I'm working with what the lyrics already had.
You're workshopping it, but because Will is definitely Marion.
Yes.
Because
the
Harold Hill is Hannibal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Now I want to see Trouble right here in River City. That
Will is just trying to stamp the books, and Hannibal's like,
Wah.
Yeah. It's all right there, man.
Oh no, I want to watch The Music Man. I'm going to buy it off eBay tonight because I don't have it on Blu-ray. I got to buy the blue. Now, see where we are, folks? Okay. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for joining. We'll do season 2 at some point. And fun fact, I have 2 other songs I do as well, so maybe I'll show you the next one next time. But Marion Librarian's the best one, though. It fits the best, and it's the one that occurs the most. But 2 others occur, though. They're just not as good.
Well, there's 3 seasons, so 3 songs.
Exactly. I didn't even fucking. It's great. So tune in for more. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, good times.
That was a loud fart. That was a wet fart.